Hi, welcome to the University of Lincoln School of Computer Science student panel. My name is Chris Headland. I'm an associate professor in the school, and I'm also the school's director of teaching and learning. So my main job is having some sort of oversight over our talk programs and making sure people get the best learning experience they can. The whole purpose of this panel is to try and demystify the student experience. Now, in normal times, as best as we can at least, right? In normal times, we would have you on campus and we would do some tours and you'd get to meet student demonstrators and so on and so forth. Obviously, in the current situation, that isn't quite possible. We're doing everything we can to support social distancing. And one of the impacts of that is that we can't do the same kind of on-site provision that we would normally. So hopefully you'll find this session really useful. I'm going to introduce my student colleagues with me, starting with Gary.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for the great intro. So it's really great to be here. I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys and sharing our experiences. So my name's Gary. I'm a third-year computer science student, and I'm a mature student. So I've got some background in engineering and manufacturing, about 25 years, and so I've joined computer science, you could say, relatively late in what would be a sort of a student university sort of career perspective. But I'm here to represent mature students. I'm also the school rep, so I get a different sense of things about how stuff goes on in the school and so on and so forth. So can't wait to start the conversation. So,
Brilliant. Thanks, Gary. And Emma?
How am I supposed to follow that? Hi, I'm Emma, and I'm a second-year computer science student.
And Michael?
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm a third-year games computing student, and I'm from Grimsby. Yeah. It's a good place.
See, Emma, that's how you follow that. Big up Grimsby. And Danny.
Hi, I'm Danny. I'm a PhD student. I'm also a recent graduate of computer science, well, undergraduate. My research focuses on anxiety in video games, and I did have a talk earlier this week, which you should go check it out. Some promotion.
And you know what?
Oh, you're going to put it up on...
I'm going to send up a fancy banner. There you go. You should absolutely go visit Danny's talk because it's fantastic. Danny did her undergraduate dissertation with me as a supervisor last year, and for whatever reason, she decided she wanted to subject herself to 3 more years of that. And her research is going really well, and she did an absolutely fantastic talk on how video games can be used to support students with anxiety, because transitioning to a new environment can be, can cause anxiety. I certainly know when I
very stressful.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think we often talk about anxiety as this bad thing, but it's also, it's a natural response to something new, and a little anxiety is, I think it helps. It gives us that sense to prepare and to kind of engage. Now, that leads me really on to the first thing I want to discuss: transition into university and how the university structures kind of helped you move from your life as it was into your life where it is. So I'm going to start with Michael. So as a third year student, you've obviously and a relatively local student. So for people who don't know their UK geography, Grimsby is that way.
It's literally like 6 minutes away.
I think it's that way. It might be that way. So Michael, what was your transition to university like, and what did you do, and how did you use the university to support that transition?
So back when I was in like sixth form, I was kind of like relatively kept in. So just coming to uni was like kind of a big change, because you just like find your own place to live. It's a bit outgoing, so you get like a lot of freedom while you're in it as well. So mainly, like, I'd probably say the hardest thing to transition into was just the freedom and trying to actually like get the motivation to actually do your work. Because in uni, there is quite a good place to learn. There's quite a lot of distractions as well, such as the nightlife and everything. like that. But you're obviously trying not to let it take over. There's that, as well as there's sites you can join and stuff like that. So it is kind of it's a little bit hard to focus on your course while you're doing stuff like that at the same time. But then when you're obviously stressed out doing your course as well, like we've got loads of assignments due and everything like that, it's also a good kind of a breather, if I would say, if I kind of kick back on that. And the other thing that really helped me during my course was probably the facilities you have at the IMB. That's for me. I don't know how it is for other courses or anything like that, but you're basically allowed to just come in whenever you can. It's like open 24/7, and can just come in, do a bit of work as long as you want to do it, and then just go back home when you're done. That's quite good. Yeah,
I think that's one of the things that we've always really liked at the school, and it's been one of the one of the things that we've had to adapt with the new environments. But it's nice when you have that kind of moment of inspiration, and sometimes those are not convenient times, right? You can still come in and you can do that work.
Yeah.
Now, Gary, as a mature student, which you said at the beginning, no, I actually went back to university as a mature student myself, so I can absolutely sympathise with that. I went back as an MSc student in later life, and it's different, right? I mean, so when I went to go to do my undergraduate, it was a whole different, it was a very different experience to come back as a mature student. So how did you find that transition?
So I was really worried about it to begin with. So the very first thing, the very first experience I had on campus was going to enroll. So I was thinking, okay, what's this enrollment process going to be like? There's going to be thousands of people there. I felt that I was going to stand. It sounds stupid. I felt that I was going to be 2 foot taller than everyone, so everyone would recognize or see me. I don't know why I thought that. I just had this complete sort of misconception of what it would be like. And so then I sort of walked up and through campus, and then I walked up into the Minerva at that time, the Minerva building where we'd held the enrollment process, and it was pretty casual. So I was thinking, okay, this is pretty good. No one's sort of staring, no one's thinking, okay, what's this? What's a lecturer doing enrolling? And I was thinking, please don't mistake me for someone, or please don't someone ask for guidance or something like that, And then I started to wait in line, and generally everyone around was sort of positive. You'd be chatting to people in front of you and behind you, asking what courses and things you were going on. You tended to have to queue up, I think, in your sort of course anyway. I think it was when I got to the desk and I sort of had to hand in and say, "Yep, my name's Gary. I'm enrolling in the first year." I think they sort of looked up and they thought, "Yeah, okay, right, what's going on?" But then once you sort of got past that, it was really good. So I remember walking off campus after enrolling, feeling pretty pleased, and that whole process itself was very calming, because then the first day that I actually went, I didn't have to sort of navigate that whole sort of that whole syndrome where you're thinking, okay, what's this going to be like? And the first lecture we had was it wasn't in IMB, it was in the Minerva Jackson Lecture Theatre, where we had a whole introduction to the year course. Yourself was there, Kevin Jacks was there, all the school lecturers were there, and they were sort of introducing themselves. And that was really good as well. I
remember that lecture. I think there was a lot of me teasing Kevin on stage.
Yeah, it was. You know what? That casualness, that was really great, because if it was too formal for me as a mature student coming back, I wouldn't have been familiar with that type of environment, because obviously coming from work, you're not in that environment, or having 20 odd years working, you don't really want to come back and be sort of, overspoken to in that way. So that was really great. So you sort of come in and you felt as it was more community sort of driven. So that was, so for me, that was fantastic. So suddenly those few things swept away, and the overarching fear was, okay, now I'm not worried about being a mature student. Am I smart enough? And it's those worries that still haunt me now. So it's those
I agree with that one.
Replaced one set of worries with another, right? Yeah. I mean, let's say from my experience, at least, and again, it wasn't Lincoln that I went to, but one thing that surprised me, and one thing I was worried, it sounded like you had the same experience. I thought being a mature student was going to be like this weird thing, and there was going to be no mature students there, and I was going to be the weird kid in class, right? I know I was the weird kid in class, but not for that reason, right? And it always surprised me going back how many of the mature students there were, and how quickly. And I think university environment is good for that. And at least from my perspective, I always try and treat students like colleagues. And I think we are colleagues. We're a community of people who have an interest. We're a community of people who have an interest in technology, and want to use it to make the world better.
Yeah, I definitely found that in doing my dissertation with you, Chris. We were working towards that common goal. It wasn't just like you're telling me what to do and I'm your like lecturer, so I know best. It was you listen to like my viewpoints, my opinions, and kind of like, maybe I agree with your viewpoint, but maybe like tweak it a bit like that so that we can work towards that goal and get those results and get that grade in the end.
Definitely agree. There's when you come to as from a mature student's perspective, you come to things like project work and stuff like that. You've got a different sort of background to call upon. I suppose, in a way, you're a little less you're a bit more impatient because you're just wanting to sort of get into it, make some structure, organize, and this sort of stuff. And everyone else is pretty chill. So for me, I had to sort of back off. And say, all right, come on, let's just go to the Tower Bar. I'll buy everyone lunch and we'll just chill out and we'll just chat a while and whatnot. And then as soon as you got home, you were like, right, okay, I'm going to put this meeting notes together. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this, and then send the invites out. You sort of walk around like that. But that's a bonus.
That's got you and Danny talking at the moment. So, and while we're doing this kind of transition thing, now you, Danny didn't mention it, but you used to be the school rep last year.
Oh, right, yeah.
And obviously Gary's the school rep now, and you've both been involved in the peer mentor scheme as well.
Yeah.
And I think, Gary, you might have been a recipient of the peer mentor scheme as well when we first joined. How do you think peers support people in their transition into university?
Yeah, really positive. Obviously, it's different each year. So last year was, the peer mentor group led by Olivia was really great. And I do remember succinctly, we had a group of 30 peer mentors, all volunteer students from across the years. And you would then have, we had 200 odd people in IMB, and you stood there and you had a placard and you said, I'm group A or group B or whatever, and you paraded around with the card above your head, and then all the students followed you. And then you went. It
was like a Butlins tour, wasn't it?
It was so funny.
And you went and sort of sat in your group, and you just sort of managed a 20-minute conversation. You sort of, I suppose you tried to go through their hopes, fears, and dreams, and say why you here and what's this, and you shared your experiences. And you just sort of made yourself available. And in a way, that's the best thing that peer mentor can do, is just sort of be that very first friend. If someone hasn't known anyone or anything, that they know they can go to, and the best thing you can do is sort of come across. And if that person just feels comfortable, just enough, just to contact you in case there's something that might be wrong, and you can share that, you can share your experiences. That's a real bonus.
I think Gary said it all quite eloquently. I'm not sure what else I could add. But yeah, definitely being kind of that, being an older, within the older years, you have kind of more of that experience of what's going on. You kind of can say to them, oh, don't worry, it's second year, third year, it's not that bad. You'll get through it. You're like lecturers and the course will prepare you for those years.
I think there's a lot of tacit knowledge that we forget that we've developed along the way, right? I mean, a lot of people going to university is their first time away from home. And there's little things that, you think would be straightforward. And they are, if you know them. It's like anything else. Everything's simple if you know how to do it. I still remember the day. It's one of my favorite stories that I had a student email me asking whether, ever so embarrassed, but asking what the difference between dish soap and fabric softener was, and were they interchangeable. And that sounds like such a daft. I know, right? That sounds like such a
question.
But it's if you know that, and they were so embarrassed to ask that, and I kind of feel like if they'd had a peer mentor at the time, and this is a long time before the peer mentor scheme came forward, it's a lot easier to ask questions like that than approach a lecturer, especially when you're. Like I say, I think we build. I talk about as being a community, but that relationship builds over time.
Yeah.
Don't you just go straight in and immediately trust people? And I'm in a position of power, right? Look at me, the DTL. And there's an element of that where I know that person was really uncomfortable, but they genuinely had laundry to do, and they needed to ask somebody. And I think peer mentors, they bring that knowledge of, right, what's the shortcut between building A and building B? Where's the cheapest place to buy a sandwich on a Wednesday afternoon? Little bits of local knowledge that you develop as a student, which part feels you guys know much better than I do, right? And because you're on the ground, you know, I don't have that same engagement as you do. Now, Emma, as our second year student, so somebody who's transitioned into university a little bit more recently, how did you find that move in?
I actually thought it was quite, I same with Michael. It's that like transition from having, you know, very little freedom at first to then like going out into this big world where you're actually, it's your first time out in the real world in a way. And you're thinking, crikey, I have so much to choose from, so much to do. Like, where do I start? And it's nice, but at the same time, being back at sixth form, it's like, you know, the teachers tell you when you have to do this, when you have to hand in this. You know, you kind of just, you know, you're living in the same place, and the same route, you know, every single day, and you're suddenly having to think about, where do I live? How do I budget? Where do I shop? I have to make sure I'm getting myself up for these lectures, you know, 9 a.m. And yeah, it's that sudden explosion of freedom, but you get used to it, and now I absolutely love it being in second year, because that first initial year is such a great way of getting used to it.
And it's such a jump as well. And I always say that the actual increase in difficulty from A level to university. Now, this might just be my experience, but I actually found my first year of university from a taught content standpoint not significantly harder than my last year of A levels. And I'll explain that. I mean, it was more difficult, it was more complex, it was more forward. But in A levels, I was spread so thin across 4 modules, and I had to kind of maintain, right, okay, I'm doing this bit of psychology, and I'm doing this bit of computing, and I'm doing this bit of, gosh, what did I do at A levels? Design. and my brain was split on so many different focus. When I went to university and suddenly I was kind of narrowing that all in, I actually found the taught content easier to manage. For me, and I think Emma and Michael touched on this quite well, the difficult part was now I've got this whole world of opportunities and freedoms, and actually the skills I need to learn is how to adult, you know, and it's how to manage my own time, how to get up to go to a lecture when mum isn't feverishly banging on my door in the morning telling me my bus is going to arrive. You know, that was my experience going to university. Of course, it was, and again, going back to university as a mature student was a very different experience. I'd been used to a very strict 9 to 5, and then I was going through a distributed timetable, and that was a very different transition. But for me, the first year was more about learning how to be a student. And it's interesting, Emmy, you mentioned that you had all these things to choose from, right? And of all people I know, your solution tends to be just do them all, because I can remember our last enhancement week looking at the attendance lists, and like Emma was at the top of every single one, which was I was very impressed by, and that's kind of what I want to lead into next. So what's been one of your really memorable experiences about university? And let's start with Danny, because I see you thinking there. So, what's been something that really comes forward?
I think I've said this before in another like live stream QnA, but it's definitely a first year module, and I think it's probably everyone's, like, it's one of their favorites, is problem solving. Back then it was with with Kevin Jakes. And it was a really good module. You got to work in a group for the final like assessment piece, and I was put in with a group, didn't know any of them, but I immediately clicked with them, and they became like my friends for the future. And then you're working together with people you don't really know, but you're getting to know, and you go to the pub like every week to work on the problems, and the lectures are so interesting. They're so funny and engaging. it's just a good way, as we were talking before, to transition into university as well, just meeting friends within that group environment and then working on an assignment as well. It was just very memorable because I made my lifelong friends there.
Oh, brilliant! I mean, that sounds fantastic. Emma, what's one of your most memorable experiences?
I think it's moving into like halls for the first time, accommodation. That for me last year was a massive. I mean, it's a very long story, but just the different kinds of people that you can meet and all the problems that you can face, and yeah, definitely accommodation. I'm trying to think of yeah, on the course, yeah, definitely problem solving was one of those things that definitely sticks in your mind. And I actually went to a extra like programming event in Manchester at the end of last year, and one of the girls I was talking to that was leading the event was asking what university I went to, or I was at now, and I said, oh, University of Lincoln, and she said, wait, does that mean Kevin's still there? Did you have Kevin? And I said, yeah, he did. He does problem solving. He said he's still there. Like late 20s, yeah.
Yeah, there's a plan when Kevin retires. We're going to 3D print a replacement. So tell us about this event in Manchester. What was that about?
So it was an event called Ruby on Rails for I think it was like the Rail Girls or something. And it was like an extracurricular event that girls could attend to increase their interest in programming. And it was specifically on Ruby on Rails. And you would go along and it would be like 2 or 3 days. And each day you'd go along, you'd have like an introduction and you'd learn some Ruby and then program something and show it to the rest of the group. And then you go back away to your accommodation, come back and then do the same thing again.
And how did you find out about that opportunity?
I can't remember. I think I just was browsing on Facebook or somewhere and it just popped up. It said Ruby on Rails and I thought, that sounds kind of cool. And I'm all for finding events that are increasing, female attention in computer science as well. Because, I was discouraged a lot when I was at school to get into computing. So
it's a really strange and it's quite a common story as well that, I mean, I think, let's kind of deal with the elephant in the room on this one, right? There are some subjects where I think the general belief is that this is a male subject and this is a female subject, and we kind of it's our priority as a program team, and it should be our priority as kind of a nation of educators to address that and to manage that. I mean, like last Enhancement Week, we had some fantastic events, and we're really fortunate. We've got exceptional female role models in the School of Computer Science. We've had one of our professors recently was named one of the top roboticists to watch in the world. It's fantastic, and it's not the experience I personally had. Right, all my kind of major mentors through my kind of business life and my programming life have all been women, which is unusual for computer scientists, right? And I think it's, at least in my mind, it looks like it looks like we've turned a corner on that front. Things like applications and exposure and media around female engagement in women in computer science. I think it's starting to look better, but there's still so far to go. And it is good that there is these additional events happening around that area. Gary, most memorable experience?
I've got so many, but I would say the first time that I did a EUROS project. Now, a EUROS is an undergraduate research opportunity scheme, and that's held within the university, and there are many of them. And the School of Computer Science holds several as well, and you get to choose different things to do. And this was last year, and so it was building an app for the school for new starts to come along, and it was called the Countdown to Lincoln. And that was really great because that gave me a broader introduction to, because at that time I knew people in my year, but I didn't know anyone sort of broader, in that sense. And so I met some really great guys, David Churchill, Craig, Eden, and so on and so forth. And there was also interaction with the LALT, so for the School of, I forgot what LALT stands for now, but
it's the Lincoln Academy of Learning and Teaching.
So had some interaction there. So this was really great because you're starting to really see what the university was about. But I'll always remember working with these particular guys because David's fantastic, third year, and when we walk, we're sort of like it feels like when you see we're like polar opposites, but we get on really well. And so when we walk around, people are like, "Oh, so you two know each other?" And we're sort of like, "Yes," and things like that. And I think you sort of said it's like Steve Jobs and Wozniak. When we're doing a presentation, and so it's sort of this different. But that was really good because that's one of the reasons I come to university was I didn't want to just sort of settle into the same group, the same circle, but it was really broaden that perspective. And I'm really good friends with these guys now, and I love watching. I really love watching everyone grow and doing their own thing. So as a mature student, the benefit that I have is being able to recall what people are doing at their sort of ages, and I can sort of think, oh, those guys are going to do really well. They're so far ahead and they don't know it, and they're going to be so brilliant when by the time they're 30 or 35 or something like that. So that
I feel like I'm going to cry now. It just seems so like
I'm so inspired.
I know.
You guys are wonderful. I watch you. I would tell you if you were.
Oh yeah, Grandpa Gary's got your back.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. That's how we did well on project work. Dad's got us.
I mean, I think that was an amazing project, right? I mean, so I had some small involvement in the design stages of that, and what was really nice was and what's really nice about the Euros project. So the Euros is a scheme we have at Lincoln where students get paid to undertake research projects over summer, working alongside academics and staff from the university. Now, a lot of those projects are live mission critical projects, and this was actually developing, like I say, a new starter app that got deployed out to a whole bunch of new starters. It was formally evaluated. It was a major project, and I think it's such an awesome thing to have on your CV that you've impacted an organization at the scale of a university, which is, universities are universities, but at the base of it, they are a massive organization. It's a big business. It's a big educational environment. And to build something at that level, I think is really cool. Michael, last but not least, what's your what's your favorite memory?
I'd probably say it's probably the late night sessions in the IMB, just because I'm not sure about most people, but like in games computing, quite a lot of the students are quite active at night, and they just all like flood in and just like get on with your work, and it's just basically just working on your projects or whatever you're doing, and also seeing what other people have made as well, and then going around and like talking to people, because it feels a lot easier to like go up and talk to other people in your courses, and just look at what they do, and they can like inspire you, and you can inspire them, and basically take their ideas and make it your own, kind of not steal them though, but and
I think that community support is really important, right? I mean, especially I think this is, I mean, it's not unique to games, but this is something that is also quite specific to games. No video games are made by one person sat at their desk anymore. It's a big community thing, and the support and sharing of ideas, that's how you grow as a creative developer. But I mean, it's something I always quite like. So you've probably all seen me at some point. I come back on campus at night at times, and I like turning up for game jams and hackathons, and it always amazes me that, again, I'll sing it till the sun comes home. I think the strength of SOCS is the community. I think that's what makes Lincoln a particularly unique place to be and to learn. Because you have things like these, you'll get together at night and do some coding. It's all about engaging with tech. There's been a question in the chat. I'm just going to pop it on screen. Morning, everyone. I'm just wondering if any of you have a favorite learning experience from your course so far, or is there anything that you're particularly looking forward to studying in the future? So I'm gonna twist that a little because I think we've been with our favorite experience. We've covered a little bit of that. So I would say, what are you looking forward to learning? Are there any modules that are coming up that you're really excited about? Obviously, for Danny, your days of modules are largely over as a PhD student. But I'm going to think of a way of twisting that question for you some way. So, start with Gary. So, what modules are you particularly looking forward to? Obviously, in your third year, so second semester.
Yeah, so the benefit of being in the third year is that you get to choose a couple of core modules, which is great. So I'm always bugging some of the lecturers, and the one that I'm really looking forward to is this. It's called Logic and Computation, and this is a new module. It's going to be very difficult. I may even fail it, but that's not the point of this module. The point is I won't. I'll do well. But the point is that it's going to be a different learning experience. And the way this has been structured, I think, has been really positive. And it's started in computer architectures, then team software engineering, and now logic and computation. And it's the structure is almost like we learn about the body, then the mind, and now the spirit of sort of computing. And so that really sort of caught me. So I'm always bugging this particular lecturer for thoughts and insights and so on and so forth. So I can sort of broaden my own experiences. But this is going to be a particularly interesting module. It's completely different to all the other ones. We're going to be doing lambda calculus. We're going to be reading Gödel, Escher, Bach, loads of different stuff that I would not normally have ever done. So that's going to be really unique. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I mean, it's worth saying. I mean, computer science. There is a philosophy behind computer science. The way of inquisition, logic, and yeah, this was a module that we talked about for a while, and we're really excited to deploy it this year. It's going to be an interesting one, and the lecturer who's delivering it is absolute passion. So I'm sure that's going to be really cool. Emma, now obviously your favourite module at the moment is team software engineering.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we are.
Well, so this year I think artificial intelligence definitely for this year. But funnily enough, the modules I'm really looking forward to the most are going to be my third year, and I'm really, really excited about the whole image processing and medical. I know there's a bit covered on medical imaging in third year, and that's what I'm really, really excited about, because I actually do quite a bit of research in medical imaging in my spare time, because that's something I'm really, really interested in. Doing.
No, I didn't know that, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I love the idea of using computer science to actually help people and better the future. And I just find it really fascinating that you actually have that power in your hand to program something that's going to save lives, And
again, we talked about this right at the beginning, right? Computer science, at the core of it, is this community of people who want to use computers to make the world better. Now, we did actually have a talk yesterday, which I'm sure you watched, which was James Brown, who's one of our medical imaging researchers. And he actually did a AI and the Future of Medicine talk. And I'm just going to quickly scroll that along the bottom. So for anyone who's interested, Lincoln has 4 research centers. We have robotics, which is LCAS. We have LOVE, which is the Lincoln something of vision engineering. I can't remember what the O stands for. I think it's one of the things we thought the acronym before the words. We have IntLab, which is the Interactive Technologies Lab, which is where me and Danny are based. And there's the machine learning group as well. And obviously there's a lot of crossover. You get a lot of machine learning and vision engineering, robotics. We do a lot of artificial intelligence in interactive technologies. There's robots, obviously interactive technologies. So there's a lot of crossover between those groups. Cool. Well, I will look forward to seeing your PhD application at some point then. It's always good when people are doing research in their own time. That's always a good sign. So, Michael, what module are you particularly looking forward to?
I would have said augmented reality and virtual reality that I'm currently doing. but obviously due to COVID, it's not, you can't actually go in and use like the equipment, so it's not as stimulating. But apart from that, I'll probably say cross-platform next year, just because of the fact that you'll be able to like create something that'll go on a phone that everyone will be like able to access, because everyone uses your phone nowadays. And then just learning how to like go through that process of doing that and just designing something unique that is different from everything else, probably.
Oh, brilliant. And so, Danny, as you haven't got any modules left, are there any things about your PhD that you're really looking forward to?
Oh gosh.
Or that what about doing a PhD are you really enjoying?
I love all the research side of it. I'm reading different research papers, kind of collecting your knowledge. So it's kind of what I'm doing at the moment with my literature review, is getting all the knowledge, reading all around the subject, kind of learning more. And with mine as well, and creating that definition of what is a transitional game. That's been a really new and interesting kind of concept I've had to deal with, is kind of creating my own definition or pulling on other people's definitions to kind of create this full rounded thing.
Because you're literally starting, we're literally looking at starting almost a new field within the area that you're looking at.
Yeah.
So you're pacing the first steps down this particular path, and I mean, that's going to be exciting. I mean, I remember that part from my PhD.
It's really fun and exciting, but it's also like, oh my gosh, I am going to be the first person to think of this. It's nerve-wracking as well.
So, I'm going to lead on to that with another question about where you're hoping to be. So, where do you hope that your degree will lead you? What kind of roles are you interested in? And we'll start with Michael this time. What are you hoping to do post university?
Post university? Oh, that's a big question. Well, I was currently
looking at what I did and just stay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, to be honest. I'm currently thinking of doing a master's afterwards, and just doing a few more modules to find out like what else there is and what else you can do, and just basically broaden my skills and with it. And then maybe if I really do enjoy staying at uni, maybe do a PhD afterwards. But if not, I would like to go into like obviously go into game testing, have a look at that, see what it's like for a year or two, and then go into like a AAA company and obviously get into games programming and obviously help out that way. But that's my current mindset at the moment.
Brilliant. Emma, where are you hoping to end up?
So straight after uni, I actually have my mindset on doing like a English teaching exchange program in Japan.
Oh wow!
like straight after, because I know that they accept people that have degrees, and you go over, they put you up in accommodation, and it's for a year, and you help assist teaching English in classrooms for primary school students. And yeah, I know I want to do that directly afterwards, but I think long term, I would love to be working in medical imaging in some sort of way. Anything, healthcare wise. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, Gary, you have the benefits of having been in industry for a while. So now with that kind of perspective and with what you're doing at the moment, where are you hoping to end up?
Yeah, so I've been very lucky to have a really positive career so far. So that's been really good. It started in a completely different way. So it was an apprenticeship based, left school at 15, 16, an apprenticeship and so on, and gone through sort of that way. So this is almost an opportunity to not restart that, but do something along a completely different sort of branch in that way. So I'm looking forward to continuing education. There's some modules that overlapped on the third year, and so I really wanted to do imaging, but I've done cloud, thought that was important, and I really wanted to do robots and automation, but there's logic and computation, so I was thinking whether I might continue to do an MComp so I could do those modules because they're super interesting to me, or try and apply. There are some AgriForwards is a group that's just been recently announced, or say recently last year, some sponsorship money for the UK, and it deals with robotics and automation, but particularly towards agriculture. So that's a program that I'd probably like to apply for, and it's sponsored.
And that's a PhD program, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, so I would really like to continue education for sure.
And Danny, are as a PhD student, where do you want to end up?
It seems I'm never going to be leaving the University of Lincoln. I'm just going to be staying here forever.
It's not the worst objective.
No. Honestly, I'm not quite sure. I'm really enjoying doing my PhD thus far, and I might just continue working hopefully continually working at the University of Lincoln and just staying in kind of academics and research, as it really interests me currently. So I'm hoping it will interest me in the future.
So you're hoping to go down an academic route and maybe be a lecturer one day?
Yeah, maybe.
Just like your hero.
Yes, definitely.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to ask one last question, and then unless there's any more comments coming via YouTube, we'll close it down at that. What really excites you about technology at the moment? So what things that are happening in tech and around you that are really interesting you, and how are your studies informing you around these areas? So we'll start with Gary.
Okay, so that's a good question. I'm really keen on blockchain technology. So that's something that I think is going to sort of change the world. It seems like it's Internet 4.0, sort of technology 4.0, and it's going to wrap all this stuff around it. And we haven't even begun to see we haven't even seen the beginnings of it. I've got a talk later, as a matter of fact, on this sort of stuff. But that's something that's really interesting to me, and I think that's going to continue we're going to continue to see that as a global sort of scale. We're going to see things rapid. We're going to see the elements of trust sort of taken away, and we're going to sort of deploy that onto machines, and machines are going to be these middle things that say, yes, that's trustworthy, no, it isn't, and all that sort of stuff. So I really think that's something that's going to blow up over the next couple of years. Say 5 or 10 years, and we're going to see it applied in lots of different areas that we never even thought of, and it's going to be replacing a lot of back end stuff that you'd think, oh gosh, how did that even happen? We're already seeing that. We're already seeing that now in some areas, although just sort of training, experimentation and stuff like that. But that's something that I think is going to be really big. I'm really keen on automation and stuff as well from my background in manufacturing. There's a lot of jobs that the people people shouldn't be just doing the same job over and over again, in my view. People are really good at solving problems, and so we should allow those guys break free and solve problems, and allow machines just to do all the other sort of stuff, and give everyone the exciting sort of problem solving things to do. So that's going to really that's something I'm always keeping an eye on as well. So
brilliant. Emma.
So there isn't anything in particular I can think about, but one of the things I think that'll help with that is actually, you mentioned the team software engineering module that I'm and my other colleagues are doing at the moment. And I feel like that is actually something I'm really excited about, because it's an opportunity to develop your own artifact, your own project, your own idea, and follow it through from beginning to end, and working as part of a team as to how it would be in the real world once we leave. And yeah, I'm really, really excited about that. And me and my team are hoping to develop something in actually image processing, which is what I want to go into in the future. And we're creating this this piece of software that allows you to move a cursor with your hand. And we're going to try and aim it at disabled users and that sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's something I'm really, really excited about.
So are you planning on releasing that open source, or?
I'm not sure at this point. We haven't really discussed.
Well, we will look forward to a talk on it at the next enhancement week. Put you on the spot there. So, Michael, what about you?
Well, I'd probably have to say like the use of augmented reality, like in the world today, and like where it can actually go. Because like at the moment, obviously you've got games like Pokemon Go and stuff like that you can play. But then in the future, that can also be used on like shopping and stuff like that. So you can literally just go in the shop and have a look, see how much money you have, by wearing like a Google Glass or something like that, and obviously pay with it that way. As well as like, I think there's a chip that is being developed that can go in your brain as well, and then like it's been tested on a pig currently, I believe, and then that can help with like depression and stuff like that. So if you can if you can get that, and
I
then
think that'll be a fantastic episode of Peppa Pig. Peppa
Yeah.
Pig and the cybernetic implant.
if you can get that and obviously implement augmented reality into that, that would just be absolutely huge. But
Yeah.
obviously,
I
I'm
should
not.
clarify that. I don't watch Peppa Pig myself, but having a child, Peppa Pig has become an increasingly part of my life. But yeah, no, I mean that idea of augmentation. I mean that's something really, really interesting at the moment, and obviously we've got some robotics guys who are looking into that, and the machine learning group as well. And that's really, really, really interesting, Michael. Danny, how about you?
I guess I saw the research recently about using video games to improve mental health, like the research that's done by the University of Oxford that playing Animal Crossing improves, like the length of playtime will improve, create a positive outset for your mental health, and just generally improve mental and physical health. And that kind of ties into my research as well. So it's all good timing. So yeah, I think that's about it.
So we'll close the session at that. But as we go, I'll ask you all to say goodbye and add if you have one tip for a student about to go to university, what would that one tip be? And I don't think we've started with Danny much, so we'll go anti-clockwise this time. We'll start with Danny and we'll end on Gary. So Danny, what would your one tip for someone starting university be?
I think my one tip is when you're at the university, talk to your lecturers. They know what they're talking about. They have all this knowledge. They have they're very useful people to talk to if you have problems or if you have questions about research behind your module. So definitely make friends with them as well, because in the future when you want to do references for jobs, they're very good people. If they know you, they will write amazing references for you. So that's my tip.
Michael, what's your one tip?
I'd probably say kind of the same as that. There are resources like outside of uni as well, like the finance group and stuff like that. So if you do need help in anything, the SU as well, you can go over to them and ask them, and they will support you in whatever you do, no matter what it is. And also, apart from that, also when you come to uni, I'd probably say kind of think of it the same as a sixth form or anything like that. Put some time to actually doing some work. So let's say maybe 5 hours a day or something, because it will help you in the long run. Whereas you won't have to like spend 3 days doing all-nighters to complete your assignment. Yeah.
So be proactive and start your assignment.
Exactly.
I think that's a good one. Emma, what would your one tip be?
Yeah, that was similar to what I was going to say. I'd say plan and start early, and just start researching the stuff that you're studying. So like if you go to a lecture, go back to your accommodation, write some notes, do a bit of research, and just try and keep on top of it, because that'll help a lot in the long run with the stress.
Brilliant. Gary, your one tip.
Yeah, I think Michael hit the nail on the head really about preparation and things like that. And I'd sort of add another side of that is around really don't hold back. Knock on as many doors as possible. 3 years flies by, so you really must knock on as many as possible. No one's going to mind you asking them questions or nudging or poking them. So do that as often and as much as you can.
Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone, and thank you for everyone for watching. I'm just going to ask everyone to wave goodbye so we get the nice